What's up, guys? My name's John Camacho, and this is Between the Pylons. Today, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I am going to talk about Ryan Tannehill, his career. You probably knew that if you clicked the button to see this. So we're going to get started. Before we do, please like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. Just do whatever the buttons tell you to do, pretty much. I will have a bunch more draft stuff. I've been working on a lot of stuff like that. I'm just trying to watch as many guys as I can and put out as many scouting reports as I can. So that's what I'm doing right now. But I wanted to take a break from all that to do this. Let's talk about Ryan Tannehill. All right. So as you guys know, Ryan Tannehill has pretty much become the starting quarterback of the Tennessee Titans over about 12 weeks. And it's been absolutely remarkable to see. And I thought it'd be pretty cool to just go back and look at his career, starting in college all the way up to how he got to the Titans and how he got to where he is today, because I think it's really cool. I think it should be celebrated, his ability to persevere through adversity and get to a point where he is beloved by any Titans fan there is. So let's get started. So how did we get here? Tannehill started his career in college playing for Texas A&M. He came into Texas A&M as a quarterback. He was recruited as a quarterback, but when he didn't win the starting job in 2018 and 2019, he ended up playing a lot of wide receiver for the Aggies while he was kind of waiting to get his opportunity at quarterback. In 2010, he started the season playing wide receiver, and then into the season playing quarterback, where he had marquee victories over number 11 Oklahoma and number 9 Nebraska. His last season in college would be his only full season as a starting quarterback, where he played 13 games, threw for 3,744 yards and 29 touchdowns. He would finish his career in that 2011 season and go to the NFL draft, where he is selected with the 8th pick in the first round by the Miami Dolphins. He ends up being the third quarterback taken in what ended up being a historic draft, where Andrew Luck went number 1 and RG3 went number 2. He was picked with the 8th pick. One pick later ended up being Luke Kuechly to the Carolina Panthers. 2 picks later, the 10th pick was Stephon Gilmore, who Tannehill will be facing off against this week. He was drafted originally by the Bills. So this draft was absolutely crazy for quarterbacks, right? The spectrum of career between Russell Wilson in the 3rd round, Nick Foles in the 3rd round, Andrew Luck in the first pick, who was, if y'all remember, he was the golden child. He was the next John Elway. He was the no possible bust guy. And it was pretty much true until he, retired. He got hurt, and he had to retire. Then you had Andrew Luck, like I said. You had Robert Griffin III, who was the Rookie of the Year his first season, that 2013 season. And then, now he's backing up Lamar Jackson and playing in meaningless games in Week 17. And then, of course, Brandon Weeden, who was pretty much a career backup for a couple years before he was out in the NFL. So it's just crazy, the draft that he ended up in. So Tannehill would go to the Miami Dolphins. He would end up being the 17th quarterback to start after Dan Marino retired. Dan Marino didn't retire that long ago, so that is pretty significant. The Dolphins were on a search for quarterback for a lot of years, and Tannehill, in all honesty, was probably one of the better ones that they've had in this decade. Not to say he played amazing for the Dolphins, but he did play very well. He was just never Dan Marino, so the fans, the average Miami Dolphin fan, never really took to him the way I'm sure he was hoping that he would. It didn't go quite as well as he was hoping. But nevertheless, Tannehill would go on to sign a 6-year, $95 million deal in 2015. He would go on to be only the fourth quarterback to throw for over 3,000 yards in the first 4 years of his season, and he would do all of that while being one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the first couple years of his career. He played against a horrendous offensive line and was really an Iron Man for the first four seasons of his career. In 2016, all of that changes. 2016 is the first year of Adam Gase. Adam Gase comes to Miami from Chicago, the offensive coordinator for Chicago. He had been a OC for Denver for a couple years with Peyton Manning at the end of his career. So he comes. He's this young hotshot. He was supposed to be what McVay was. This was the first young hotshot offensive mind, and he goes to the Dolphins, and he has Ryan Tannehill, who just signed this deal, 6-year, $95 million, which is pretty okay deal for an average starting quarterback. That's kind of the best you can do for a position that's getting about $30 million a year now. And they go on to have a pretty good career, or a pretty good year in 2016. After a very slow 1-4 start, the Dolphins go on a 9-2 run to finish out the season and make the playoffs for the first time in Tannehill's career as a Dolphin. Unfortunately, Tannehill doesn't get to play that game because Tannehill gets hurt in Week 13 against the Arizona Cardinals. He has a ACL-MCL sprain, which is, I believe, what the final diagnosis was. Essentially, he had this close to an ACL tear when Chandler Jones I don't think it was personal, but he kind of hit Tannehill low, knee goes the wrong way, and that was all she wrote for that season for Ryan Tannehill, which was unfortunate because this was going to be one of the best seasons for Tannehill up to that point. So the 2016 season is done. The Dolphins get blown out in the division round, and Tannehill doesn't get a chance to come back in the game like the Dolphins were hoping had they gone farther into the playoffs. 2017 comes around, and on August 3rd, 2017, Tannehill has a non-contact injury in training camp where he does suffer an ACL tear. He's done for the season. The Dolphins are forced to sign Jay Cutler, Smoking Jay Cuddy, out of retirement, given $10 million to play a couple games that season. The 2017 season is essentially lost before it even starts. In 2018, Tannehill does come back, but it was a disappointing season for the Dolphins. It was really not much to write home about for anybody. That season would lead to the franchise deciding to cut ties with the head coach, Adam Gase. They cut ties with Ryan Tannehill, and pretty much any other player that any team wanted to trade for, they cut ties. So on March 15th, 2019, the Tennessee Titans trade a 2020 4th-round pick and a 2019 7th-round pick for Ryan Tannehill and a 2019 6th-round pick. So essentially, the Dolphins get a 4th-round pick in 2020, the upcoming draft, and the Titans get a backup quarterback. Not a bad deal. Titans go on to give Tannehill a $7 million extension and agree to, and I think it was up to $12 million in incentives if he were to play, which he did, and I'm sure he hit a lot of those incentives. I know he didn't hit them all. I know 25 touchdowns was one of them. He didn't get there. Now, Tannehill was reportedly had a huge say in where he wanted to go. The Dolphins couldn't just trade him wherever they wanted. He had a big say in that, and he wanted to go to the Titans because he did believe that it was going to be the best chance for him to play moving forward. Now, in the 2018 season, Marcus Mariota had been riddled with injuries. The Titans had to start nobodies as backups, so they needed a good backup quarterback. So whether Marcus Mariota would to be benched or would get hurt, Tannehill did have a good shot to start. He knew that, so he agrees to the trade, goes to the Titans, and it was probably the best decision he could have made. because in week 6 of this 2019 season, the Titans decide to bench Marcus Mariota for Ryan Tannehill. The Titans started 2-4 for the season and into the season 9-7. Tannehill was able to bring the Titans on a 7-3 run to finish the season, and now they're all set to play a divisional matchup against the Patriots, a opponent that Ryan Tannehill is incredibly familiar with, having played him twice a year for multiple years with the Miami Dolphins. So that's the career of Ryan Tannehill. He had a lot of success. He had a lot of failures. His career in Miami gets remembered as, a lot of injuries and a lot of, bad luck. But it does get forgotten the fact that he didn't have a lot of talent around him, which, that's kind of par for the course if you're when you're in Miami. But it does get forgotten that Tannehill really only had one injury. He gets labeled as this injury-prone quarterback, and he's just not. He had an MCL tear that he decided to not do surgery on in that 2016 season at the end of the year. And then he comes back in 2017 having rehabbed all offseason, but not actually getting surgery. And then he tears it. He just re-aggravated the same injury. It was the same leg. It was the same problem. So he tears it, has to get surgery, and then comes back in 2018, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good for really anything about that team. The team kind of fell apart under poor coaching. Just poor leadership from Adam Gase. We found out later on that the locker room was very divided, and it was a difficult place to play. It was a difficult situation to be in, but it wasn't Ryan Tannehill's fault. Now Ryan Tannehill's in a situation where he has 2 legitimate starting receivers. He has a great run game. He has a pretty good offensive line, and he's a very good defense. He's in a position to win, and he's winning. Tannehill was not the problem in Miami, and now he might be the solution in Tennessee. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. Or don't. Doesn't really matter. I just like seeing the numbers go up. I'm not going to lie. I also do have a podcast that you can listen to every week, the Between the Pylons podcast. Look it up on your favorite podcast listening app.